Welcome to the Village North Bennington Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, May 7th. And we'll begin with the review and approval of the minutes of the April 9 meeting.
They look good to me. I'll move we approve them.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I guess you need to abstain, you weren't here.
Right.
Citizen comments. No, let's do the warrants. How long have I been doing this?
It's the one you handed out to us. It's a pretty small warrant, this one.
Take out the delinquent taxes and there's hardly anything spent this month.
Don't tell Norm that, he'll start spending.
He knows, that's why there's nothing left. Are you going to do the signature copy?
Yep. I'll make a motion to accept the warrant.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, then the
Payroll.
payroll warrant.
Well, nothing unusual there.
No.
I move we accept the warrant as presented.
Do I have a second?
Actually, could I add one more, please?
To which?
I need to add one check to the warrant,
The main warrant?
the main monthly bill.
Okay, and that would be?
That would be a replacement check to Sunrise.
All right.
In the amount of $500, and we will void the other check. It was given to them, but it was misplaced, I believe. So let's just follow 14817, and $500 is the amount. Thank you, Lori, for doing that.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Changing the number to 27,960, 65. And maybe we should have a motion to accept that.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go. Get the payroll one.
And this one.
We did.
Okay. Now we could have some citizen comments, if there are any. George?
Thank you. I have some comments to make to you about the railroads. I have a packet, and I'll pass those out to you. There's 5 packets. And I want to give you an update on some of the rail activities around the passenger train, or passenger trains plural, that have come to North Bennington and are scheduled to come to North Bennington.
That too?
Well, there's this ferry here, if anybody wants it. Gail's got numbers on it. You might like that.
Okay.
Well, I'll take
A
it.
bunch of stuff.
You can have that too.
Yeah, whoever, or one for Lori, whoever gets it, I don't know. That's up to you folks. But I wanted to update with you. We had our last meeting today in this room with the Vermont Rail Action Committee. And we want to thank, first of all, start out by thanking the trustees of North Bennington for making this space available. We won't meet again until the fall, and we will continue to exist as an organization, ad hoc organization, to look into the development around the rail issues, but there's not going to be much happening this summer, I don't think. On the other hand, I do want to invite everybody who would like to come on. Brian Searles, who is the Agency of Transportation Secretary, is going to be speaking to the Bennington County Regional Commission at their annual meeting on the 16th. I think it's the 16th at the Country Club. If you can get a chance to hear him, part of this presentation is going to be about the rail. Bringing the fellow who's most involved with that is Costa Pappas. And he can get into the meetings at that time. I just want to give you a real quick update. Ed Ellis, who has this train that came out of Boston, the last minute had to move his train over to the Vermont Railway. He said 5-minute phone call to Dave Wilson was all it took. After he'd sold tickets to take it to Saratoga Springs, and they had to backtrack, come to North Bennington and go to Rutland to get onto the, hooked onto the Amtrak train. And, but there were about 30 people on the train. They were all very pleased the station was here. I enticed them into the station in the morning with coffee and donuts, and they came in, and they were an interesting group from all over the country paying big bucks to ride on the train. And they left here about 9 o'clock after overnighting here. We thought they were going to use water at the station. They never did. They brought their own water in. They brought a big tanker in. Where they basically just came here to overnight and have a place to do that. Some of them were rare mileage buffs that came from, one guy I had actually met in California about 2 years ago. He was just out, they get a map and they color it in. I've been on that line, now they've been on this line. So that was, I think, quite successful. I guess a little misunderstanding about garbage. We didn't know they needed that service, and so we didn't arrange for that service, nor did they, but some very good citizens came along and helped them out, not realizing that they had been partying the previous day. And so it was quite bad. So, now, that's the Ellis train, and I don't think we'll see him back until he finds a new group of millionaires to come this way. The second thing I want to talk to you about is the regional study, the study that's finished up now, pretty much finished up with the consultant, the VHB Corporation, and they have released their draft for the rail study. And what I have given you in here is some material from their draft package. What a draft means is that it can change. So anything you see in this document can change. And if you open it up, the first page, there is an insert that is not put in here that talks about crossing. One of the things they want to do is they want to gate all crossings in Vermont that are not private crossings. All public crossings will be gated. The rationale given for that is that should the passenger trains come in, they'll be running about 60 miles an hour or up to 60 miles an hour. And they will, therefore, people are used to seeing at 15 miles an hour and they think they can scoot across the crossing. A gated crossing, which is the most secure way, will cut down on accidents, injury, and death. And I think it's an excellent idea. This has come late in the planning process, but it's included. But it will affect the village probably in wherever we have a crossing. So we have, what, two crossings on this line. Main Street, I guess, and Bank Street. They need to know that. The next thing is this is largely two studies because New York State and Vermont have come together in the process to express their needs. New York's needs are different from Vermont. New York is suffering from capacity constraints, I guess is the best way to put it. In other words, the business has increased more than the ability of the railroad infrastructure or track to handle it. You know, this is very old tracks right out in front of the depot here. And so New York State, they want to address a lot of that, particularly on what we used to call the Boston Main, the line down to Hoosick Junction where our little line connects. and extend that capacity with some crossings in Vermont to provide fluidity. And they have to, in the study, they say, well, why do you need to do that? Isn't it enough to have a track going one way? And the answer that they give is they have a 30-year view out. They're supposed to plan for 30 years into the future. So that's one of the things. Now, the other thing is they have made a stab at stations, and I think this is one of the things where the Board of Trustees deserves particular commendation for being willing to take time from your schedule and come in and meet with the consultant. Many of you were here for that, and Norm was here. And the fact that you just made them feel very special. They're doing something special for North Bennington in return. If you turn to the second part of the report, I think it's about 5 pages in, you'll see that there is a line item. It's the last line item on the North Bennington station cost. It's for $300,000. Should this study go through, I think that means that the village of North Bennington will be receiving $300,000 for the historic station. That's this building. And you know, when I say that, remember it's a draft, and remember there's a lot of people who sniff here, sniff there, but still, that's a considerable amount of money. For example, if you look at Manchester, I put Manchester in there too. Manchester's getting $30,000. Well, their needs are different than your needs, and the idea, of course, is incorporating a warm space. The platform is again across the street.
It's not just me.
Had a lot of good suggestions as to how to do traffic flow and things, and the design process will probably, if this goes forward, and I'll talk to you about the steps in just a minute, but the design process, if this goes forward, will likely involve more local agencies. So maybe the Regional Planning Commission, so it'll be easier for us to deal with them on the various things. It will involve 2 tracks across the thing, and it will also involve fixing a lot of chronic problems in the village, such as drainage and blocking crossings and things. So that the train would actually stop across the street on the west side of Main Street. And it needs to be ADA compliant. That means that it has to be 48 inches, there has to be a platform 48 inches above rail height, which will allow people in a wheelchair or crutches or otherwise impairments to get onto the train on a level basis. And this, the reason we are doing it, and you say, well, how come us? Amtrak has a $200 million retrofit for all their stations. And it's going to take them years to do it, but they are certainly would be loath to take in a new station that wasn't ADA compliant. So it's like, okay, it's another list of, it's a whole list of checkoffs of things you have to do, and that will take care of that. I appreciate the village efforts to take care of more parking in this area. Even when we had the Elvis train in here, it was busy. I mean, there were people, everybody found out about this somehow, and they were coming in here, and we had a bus coming in to take the people to a restaurant, and this could have been Grand Central Station at night. And it suggests to me that it would be Grand Central again if there were people coming in here, that there would be a lot of action. So what I recommended to the consultant in the follow-up letter was that we continue to think about the 50 places across the street, as well as whatever improvements that you folks could make here. And a reminder, you will be getting about $300,000 for the site. And you're probably wondering, what is that $300,000 restricted to? The name of the state consultant is Costa Pappas, and when I asked him that question the other day, he says, I don't know yet. But I said, okay, what it means is that if the Board of Trustees wants to find out about how I can spend $300,000 in the historic station, should it be granted, then you'll have to call him and he'll have to provide the limitations of the use of that. But certainly items such as if a building room is used here, handicap bathroom or bathrooms plural, any changes or improvements to the station platform, those things, those I think would be definitely given. And that's quite a bit of money to do that with, I think. I don't know if cover everything, but it's quite a bit of money. So that's the station. In Manchester, if you're interested, they're going to use the lumberyard, Miles Lumberyard, as a large open space. It's actually, they store lumber there now, and that space will be converted into a parking and platform. You can have a little platform. And it may surprise you that the city of Mechanicville, New York is also going to have a new station. And their location is also, they're very close to the Nanotechnology Center. And I see that very much as a growth area in New York State. We're not as familiar because there's a border between us and them. We're not as familiar with New York State issues, but New York State has invested about $7 to $9 billion, billion with a B, in that area. And I see it growing and being a useful feeder to this train. The end product will be one train. It'll take about 2 hours and 40 minutes to run from Rutland to Albany. And there, I gave you the page of where they actually did the breakdown. And then another 2 hours and 15 to 2 hours and 30 minutes in New York City. So you'd be in New York from here in somewhere around 90 minutes. And then another 2.5 hours if you used a all-stop station, or maybe even faster. So things are on the move. I was in New York State in a meeting in Schenectady Saturday, trying to promote cooperation between the two states, and things are on the move in New York State. They are finally doing work that's been pending in New York State that's 40 years hence. I'm going to leave the rest of the material with you. It talks about where the sidings are located and how many times go here and whatever else. And leave any time that I haven't failed so I can answer any questions that I might be able to answer or refer you to them. So are there any questions?
Well, George, I think you were going to comment some on the process from here, what happens next?
Thank you for asking that question. This preliminary study is a $1 million study, funded about 50-50 Vermont and New York State. What it does is puts us in actual running for FRA funds now for an actual route, which would be the next step. Should Vermont, should this line be accepted as one of the routes, and should all of the things be done in proper format through this study, we can then apply for any monies that come out of the federal government. Government in Washington is trying to get away from just politics and tap on the back, putting in various infrastructure improvements and developing metrics. And this study was one of the metrics that we had to meet for the next step. There will be approximately, if Congress, and you know how I feel about that, if Congress is capable of coming together on the infrastructure funding, there will be about $4 billion for rail in that money. And so after that, should Vermont, and we'll compete. And this is where I suppose there'll be another round of local encouragement of local people. If this is what people really want, then you'll have to say again why it's important. But the letter that you wrote, the letter that the towns wrote, and the other towns in Bennington County written, has been a very important part. It's being assembled by the state AOT to go with this application. And so that's been very important. If we get that, it will likely take about 3 construction seasons. So 3 years after that, before we see a train.
Well, thank you. It's going to be a daunting task.
So it's not over, and I just hope I'm not in a walker before it's all over. One last thing, the village has been very generous, and as you know, Matt, there's a wonderful picture. And if the trustees are interested, I will get the rights of that picture. It's a copyrighted picture. I'll get the rights for that and provide it for the depot here if you should want it, if you want it. I think, Laura, you've seen a copy of it.
It's gorgeous.
It's
absolutely
It's a
beautiful.
nice picture.
It is. I mean, I don't know what something like that would cost, but
Well, I'll take care of that for you if that's what. if
then we
the
want it
trustees
hanging,
want it.
we want it
You've got a
hanging in
place for it.
here.
You're running out of wall.
Well, we'll make some new wall.
Well, we've got a picture rail now, and
That's right.
Put it over there.
So if that's something you're interested in, I'll proceed with that.
Absolutely.
And the fellow who did it lives in Heinsberg, Vermont, and he's known as the new Winston Link, who was a popular photographer in the 1950s in the Appalachians, and he does amazing night pictures.
Right.
So that's all I have, unless you have questions for me. I thank everybody. I know Norm done moments work on parking lots and all the other stuff, and the stuff we usually do, and you just made a real impact. And you will be unique in the station. If we should make it to the Amtrak system, you will be unique in the building that you offer people. And you'll be incorporated, whereas before, it'd be waiting outside in the cold across the street. And because of you folks doing what you did, at least there'll be a warm place to wait. It's still gonna be cold in the winter.
Thank you, George.
Thank you very much.
I believe that's the end of our citizens. Norm, Highway.
Well, spring has finally come, so we've been doing some spring things. You've seen us out mowing and dealing with leaves and cleanup and taking care of things that we've done with the plows. So everything's going quite nicely. We've had our bid opening on our intersection project. I don't know if David wants to talk about that a little bit. You know, we've got some numbers that I went forward to an engineer, whether they deem acceptable or not. You know, we'll see. I think my gut reaction is they will be.
Yeah, I got an email yesterday saying that they would, and so they sent the report off to Montpelier for them.
For the next set of engineers to look at it.
But it hasn't been officially offered to the bidder.
No, it hasn't, but if it got accepted by the first one,
Yeah.
I believe it's just some formalities, you know, another set of eyes to look at. So, you know, so the center of town's gonna be quite busy. We have stopped and talked to the business owners and talked to them all and kind of informed them, hey, unfortunately, this is gonna be the way it's gonna be for a little while. You know, so it really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. You know, but except for every other resident in the village, you know, it's gonna be tied up for quite a while.
what's the timeline on that? If it's accepted?
You know what, I don't even wanna go into that, because it all varies between the contractors. The one person who was the lowest bidder, I mean, their company's pretty good size, so I think.
Yeah, and the bid package specified completion by September 27th. That could be negotiated, but that's the target.
Okay.
But then,
It'll
just
take
like
off.
Dave said, that was an oversight from last year's bid. That date was last year's date, so, you know, we'll have to be a little flexible, but more than likely, it will all be completed in this construction season. That was our goal with all the vendors and the contractors, and everybody, nobody said they had a hard time with that.
I don't know how you felt, Norm, but I was a little shocked with the spread in
I
the.
was, there was at least a $30,000 spread
Right.
from the bottom to the top, so.
I mean, those are just bidders who throw a crazy number that don't really want the project, and if they get it, they get it.
Well,
I would assume.
one of them was the bidder who did the same bid last time,
Yeah.
when it was deemed out of line.
And it
Submitted
returned
about
the same bid?
Pretty much the
He
same.
came in with almost the same bid.
So I assume they're just, if you get it, you get it, if you don't.
Whatever.
You know,
But you look at how they have to bid, where all the items are itemized, and there's like 5 items that they play games with. I mean, most of the rest of them are pretty straightforward, you know, how much does the yard of concrete cost? You know?
Right.
And then they have to think like mobilization. Now, how somebody can say it costs them $200,000 to mobilize the people to get them here?
You're right.
And another group says 13,000? I mean, that's,
You know, that's a big number, but like you said, that's a number that they can play with. Nobody can tell you how much it's gonna cost you to get your toys to the sandbox.
right.
But, you're right, it's a little ridiculous, so.
Fortunately, just so everybody knows, the low bid did come below the estimate that I had made for the grant. So we've got that at least 80% covered.
We can start locking in what our costs are gonna be for that project.
Right, and as we told before, some of our costs have been long paid for.
That's right.
You know, so, you know, that's gonna be a counting fee. I don't know quite where that falls, and where that.
It'd be worth sitting down and taking a look at that, where, what has been paid out and what,
Yeah,
so we know what that final number is.
yeah, I've got all that.
Our next big project that we had this month was this train station. We had a engineer and a local person in a roofing contracting business, Mr. Kenyon, is a distributor for Firestone Roofing. And he came, his family grew up in the village, 13 kids. Gordon Kenyon was a painter here. I mean, he's well-respected family in the village, North Bennington. He offered his time to come here and go up in a platform ladder truck that a fellow named John Parker Sr. from Hoosick Falls Fire Department and another fellow named Keith Cross Jr. from North Bennington, who has a relationship there. I don't know if he was a dual member or something, but, you know, with their help, and of course, our fire chief, Ed Myers, we got a platform truck here. We could put 3 people up on this roof and around it and get a very good opinion on the longevity, on the necessity of our roof repair. Now, until that report comes final, I really don't want to get into speculation about it, but, you know, it will need some attention to what speed we'll get back from our report from our architect, and we got a grant for that, so, you know, I definitely like to thank those people, and I believe Matt has something to ask the board a little bit about for those 3 that came and volunteered their time. So, then we move on to our little project around here in the corner. You know, you can see that we've got a local contractor, bulldozer, the guy that helps us out continuously. Called them the other day. State said we have to be okay, it's not a toxic site, we're gonna cover it. They wanted to put 3 loads of material there. I talked them into all the material we needed, and we'll push it around. So, you know, we got Matt, and I went, grabbed his dump truck and his trailer, and moved his bulldozer, and he came home and said, wow, I guess I'm going to work there tomorrow. So, we pushed it off, and I don't know if anybody see it, you know, we've got Bud in there tonight, and, you know, we cleaned it all up. He needs 1 more load, which we're gonna have to fess up because I let him go, but, you know, we bought 7 yards instead of 30, so we had a good cost, so.
Great.
State provided a guy, a fellow named by Pete, and he was here the last 2 days working with us, you know, done the roller.
So where exactly we stand with that?
Well, you know, this is where Norm stretches out on a limb a little bit. We've got a promise from the governing board of the railroad, David, that parking lot piece will in turn be leased to us.
Do we know how big that is?
I don't know how big.
Okay, just curious.
But those 2, I bet you those 2 parcels are equal in size almost. And
More curious is how deep it goes as opposed to.
deep is right there. It goes.
Just that
You
tree
come
line?
to there's another set of tracks that had been messed up, and those are his.
Yeah.
So we might come in a little bit more past that tree line.
Yeah, but,
We talked, we want to maintain an integrity of the tree line,
yeah,
but we could move
play
there.
around a little bit.
There is tracks there, they are ruined, they've been pulled up with the other excavators that the state hired, not us. They've been pulled, mangled, twisted, there's no way a train is gonna sit on it. You know, definitely, if you go the 20-foot rule from the active track where the car sits all the time, there was 2 trains parked there this morning.
Yep,
We're probably 3 feet on the other side of that tree, you know, if that's it. So, you know, that's a good spot to stay and just leave it. Once we get past the gravel phase, then we'll start bringing in a little topsoil and we'll get together with everybody's little vision of how we want to see parking laid out. And,
I just think the dust hasn't really settled yet on the entire arrangement of what,
right.
I mean,
It is-
things
it's not
kept
going too far.
changing,
Yep.
as to,
It has, and I think where we're gonna succeed is we put forth a lot of good faith effort. I mean, we've saved the state oodles of time. I mean, the guy comes from Barry, and he's gonna drive down here to deal with this, and, you know, he can pick up the phone, he calls me, and I go over and I do 2 minutes worth of stuff, and send him a picture, and he's a happy guy. So, you know, I think we're not gonna have a single problem with that. We dealt with Bill Leach, who is the District 1, he's like the big boss down there, because Nelson Blanchard's in charge of him, but anyway. I got a good working relationship with him, and, you know, we got the roller, it's gonna stay there for another day, because I really wanted Bud to push it off. You know, he's a phenomenal operator, so I wanted it nice and flat. So we got it cleaned up. I gotta bring in one more load of gravel tomorrow, and then I'll finish it tomorrow night, and we'll get some rain on it. And, you know, I don't think, like we told Matt this morning, I don't think we should put big arrows, say park here, but I know people are gonna start using it as soon as it's open. I can't believe they're not parked on it today for the baseball game. But probably he was working in there and they just left it out. And that's it, you know, some shrubbery, and some, you know, I don't think we should go crazy.
No.
You know, a little topsoil, some islands, and, you know, make it and clean it up. Now, we're gonna need to stay.
At least in the short term anyway, you know, who knows in the long term, but.
Right. You know, we're gonna need to stay away from that building a little bit. You know, I don't know exactly where that line is, you know, so, and then whatever happens, like I said.
For those 2 buildings, there was only a 2-foot gap.
That's right. You know, I don't know what the property line is. I don't think anybody that's a player in that building, nobody's gonna deal with it. It's not gonna matter.
Yep.
You know.
well,
we just
I have a feeling there wasn't a line.
Cars.
It's all one piece of property.
No, it's 2
parcels. It's 2 parcels.
It's 2.
It's got 2 parcel IDs.
Okay.
Because we had to send that to the
right,
state when they were trying to
And they're
find out.
side by side, not front to back. It's a
The
long,
buildings are basically the parcels, I believe. I mean, I don't know, they might
Right,
stretch a
yeah,
little beyond
where
that,
that little alleyway was between them, or this wide,
Right,
it's
it's probably-
separated, it's 2 pieces.
but, yeah.
okay.
So, with that said, I mean, I think it's an improvement to the neighborhood, you know, it's finally getting cleaned up, doesn't look like a bomb, and, you know, again, that's one of the reasons we got the bulldozer in to do it and just be done with it. And if we do it right now, then we don't have to go back in and do it later, you know, and making a mess of it. So that's where we are there, you know, the parks. We're helping out, we're doing some crack sealing right now. We're joining a neighboring town, and we're, you know, you won't see Zach around for a couple days, but he's helping them. And then when we get the crack sealing machine over here, they're gonna send somebody to help us here. And, you know, our typical deals that we, you know, working relationships that we've fostered, so that's where we are.
Good.
Excellent, thanks, Norm. DRB. I don't think there's anything there. Fire department. It looks like they're starting to get a little busy with the dry fires. There's a couple forest fires in the county yesterday. Water board, I don't know of anything. New business, the one thing I wanted to, before I forget, is I wanted to somehow thank those people who did help take a look at the roof yesterday. You know, if we had to have had to rent or get someone to come in with a crane or whatever, it would've been $1,000 just to get out the door.
Right.
And they came in and did this. So I'm asking that the board authorize, you know, something, donation to the Hoosick Falls Fire Department, something like that, and maybe a gift certificate or two to the people, you know, to...
Now, are they all affiliated with the fire department, or just,
Well, no, John Parker is affiliated with the Hoosick Falls Fire Department.
was it one of their active trucks that came?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. They, you know, they have to use it as a drill, and I'm
Yep.
sure he wrote it down for driver training or something like that. Then Keith Cross is a, you know, member of our local fire department now. And then, Mr. Kenyon came over and, you know, and he was here. I mean, we were here 3 hours probably.
I don't really know what would be considered appropriate. I mean, maybe
Well, certainly, yeah, I mean, certainly something directly to the fire department.
$100 to the Hoosick Fire. That,
Sounds good.
and then, I don't know, gift certificates to Kevin's or something for,
Help out a local business too, in the same.
Yeah. I just don't know what that should be, and,
You know, probably 30 wouldn't be bad, you know, it's certainly, you know, a person go get in there and have lunch would be pretty close to hitting that mark, you know?
I would actually go, I would say, considering what it could've cost us, if we gave a $50 gift ticket to each of them, they could take their wife or girlfriend to dinner. I mean, that's,
You know,
I would say, I mean, just knowing what things cost now in the restaurant business,
to the two firemen and to,
to all three of them,
Mr.
a
Kenyon.
$50 gift certificate and then $100 to
the
the...
architect was there, was being paid to be there, so he loses.
He gets paid.
Are we all in favor of that idea, that motion?
I certainly am.
I'll go down and talk to them tomorrow, I'm sure they'll send us a bill and we'll just give it to you.
Okay.
I'll get them handed out.
I will expect you and Lori to take care of that.
We'll do it during lunch at
I think it was the cream ball
Yeah.
there.
Any other new business?
Yeah, I've got one, I'm sorry.
Nope, well, go ahead, Mel.
Mine's quick.
Okay.
Just kind of a follow-up, I can't remember if we mentioned this or not. They are looking to do some improvements to the Little League field over here, and I believe they want to get it done. They're going to cancel the last couple of weeks of the season to try to get it done toward the end of June, which would keep it in this fiscal year. I talked to Gail earlier, and I know we've got roughly $5,000 left in Park and Rec. I'm going to speak with Bennington Little League about what they feel the price might be, but was hoping we could certainly share the cost. I know they're committed to helping out with the cost, because it is kind of one group, but I don't see us coming close to spending all of that between now and the end of the fiscal year,
No,
so.
that's exactly what that money's for.
Exactly, and it would be good. Most of our money, we haven't done a lot with the ball fields or even that park since we really wrapped things up, so.
Right.
Wouldn't be bad to get a little barn house.
For under the swings and things, that was another thing I was gonna talk to you about. Laura brought that up to me too. Yeah, certainly, which is why we're certainly not gonna spend $5,000 on the
Those
Little League.
things are getting pretty thin, and,
Yep.
you know, and I forget where we get it, but, you know,
It has to be, it's playground certified.
I know, and it came.
At least, you know what, I take that back. For the first round, it had to be, and it is what's suggested.
I think that's where we should stay, you know,
Sure.
for the, you know, because you use the barn house like, we should just stay with that playground, for the playground. But
Jamie Jerome, I know, has a contact for that. He may have even been who we got the name from originally, possibly.
Mark, nobody has requested the $700 for the Little League appropriation. Someone should do that prior to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. I've got to speak to him anyway, I'll make sure he does that.
Yeah, and
But anyway, I will have a firm figure on that.
of how much they want
Yes.
our help,
Yeah.
or whatever.
They have no money and they don't request it.
Ask.
The Park McCullough House hasn't either.
Yeah,
Huh?
I've reminded them how many times I'm giving up this year.
I know, David, I remind them.
No, I mean, I went through it
Who's the chair? Is
Kiki
Kiki
Trader.
still is the?
Kiki.
Okay.
I mean, I
How much
think,
is that appropriation?
$1,000.
Yeah.
I think it's money, wasted money right now.
The only other issue with that is I want to make sure, because I know we talked about using some of the money for the dam removal, as long as we don't think all that's going to be a timing thing, but we certainly don't think that's probably not going to come due till after this fiscal. It'll probably be next,
Yeah,
more than likely.
I can certainly make that.
It's a guess, but-
That call, that's really, RJ Jolly, Superintendent Bennington, he's in the driver's seat on that.
When I get a phone number, I'll give you a call, and if you can just kind of pick his brain to see if he has a guesstimate on when that might happen, just so we don't kind of...
When what?
We talked about using, because that kind of, the dam removal.
dam, I know.
Really is, it's a benefit to the park, so I certainly said it would
If
seem
there's anything left.
reasonable.
We need it for
Yeah,
that.
it would seem reasonable that we could use some of that money to offset everything else we're spending money on.
With as dry as it's getting, it could be
If
sooner
we just
than
talked about
later.
that earlier, it could be an earlier season.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the river.
before we commit to anything, I'll make sure I touch base and see when.
Right, because we rolled the bar, so that, and it wasn't a great deal of money, but that came out of that. That would be.
I think that's already figured in. That should already be figured in.
It's in this one.
The one we just got, the number I got from
it's
Gail
just a
today.
single- Well.
No, it's in, yeah, it's on this warrant, but
It's
that's
not
the...
on
It won't affect a big amount, it won't affect the big number
No.
much at all, so.
I can't remember what it was. but-
Okay.
No, it's on our warrant.
Because we only rolled one part.
Here you go.
Are there-
It's not very much.
Other new business?
Just
Could I
maybe,
just bring up one thing?
go ahead. I'll go for, I'll go second.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to, Matt, do you want what I've been dealing with Green Mountain Power, did you want to?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's daily that I'm talking to them, so I think,
Didn't we
He was
just,
on vacation this
don't we
week?
just want to put them in touch with Rob? I mean, these are legal
I
transactions
did,
that,
I put him in touch with Rob McWaters, thinking, because Rob could answer lots more questions.
and I spoke to Rob actually after you did.
Great. Do you want me to go ahead and give him Rob Woolman's
That's what I was
number?
hoping.
And how about Rachel? Because they wanted to know about planning and subdivision and all that. Would Rachel be the one to?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Bottom line is, years ago, we approached CVPS as to whether or not they would sell some of the land that,
Right.
down by the river, between the power station and that other parcel, between that and the park, your land, which is on that side.
It's the park. I mean, it's part of the park. We've never done anything with it. And
Right.
it would be really nice to do that.
Yes, it would.
But anyway, it's another piece of land next to that, up to the power station, which then would be one contiguous piece. Anyway, at the time, they didn't want to have anything to do with it. Now that CVPS is Green Mountain Power, they want to unload.
Well, they do, because Marty had approached
I know, I remember.
CVPS to try to get either an easement or something
Yeah.
that we could keep the trail going across the...
They've totally turned around, they want to sell it to us.
Oh, great.
I can't imagine it's worth much.
I have all the information, Gail, if Marty wants to get involved.
Oh, sure.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would love to get...
Every day, really. So,
Pass off the, yeah.
I'm going to.
So yes, please let,
Marty and Rachel and
And
Rob.
Rob.
Woolman.
and just, they can make it happen. We can find local donations even for it, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, the fund or,
Yeah.
there's places to find that money.
So I just had sent everybody the financial policy handbook, and I've been thinking in terms of my retirement, and, it would be, we have a personnel manager, we have a manual, we have planning commission, we have, all the manuals that we have, but we don't really have anything for fiscal policies. And so I started to think, because I'm trying to think of I've been at this job since 1997, and so things I know, and I'm trying to think for the next treasurer, what's going to be a smooth transition for them. And I thought, it would be really helpful, and it's also helpful for you as trustees for when a new trustee comes on, you know? So the policies in this was VLCT. And, you know, we don't have to use all of them, certainly, but it would just be something to consider, and just so that we have in writing what's expected of, you know, there's a policy in there in terms of accounting, in terms of the treasurer, in terms of, you know, purchasing, credit cards, you know, all those things that go into making sound fiscal management. So, that's something, I know these things take time, so I'm thinking ahead in terms of,
No, it's a super idea.
you know, that it would just be something to have, to pass on to the next treasurer. And, you know, I'm trying to think of all the things that I do and trying to make a job description, so I don't know how you want to go about it.
Well, Susan, we should probably sit down with you, because you're gonna know. If I look at that, for me to make a decision on anything in there is pointless, but if we were all to sit down together and you explain it to us, we could certainly go through and see what is most applicable to the village, and you would be the one to
I mean, not
really lead us through that.
What is this?
Right.
Right.
I mean, not everything in here, obviously, you know, I printed the whole thing is, we're gonna need, but, you know, if we, and not each policy we have to adopt in full, it's just, you know, we can pick and choose
Right.
how we want.
And I'm sure some of it is more appropriate for larger municipalities that don't
But I
really
think,
apply to.
I just think it would be a good thing for the village to
Yeah,
have.
I agree. What would be our process for a working meeting?
Well,
to go
or,
through,
you know, tackle one policy at a time, you know, just, I mean, so that it's, you know, it's not a huge burden to anybody, and then, you know, maybe talk about it and then adopt it. I don't know, whatever you think would be the best.
You're gonna be done this time next year or 2 years from now?
2015.
2 years from now.
15,
So
okay.
we've got some time.
We have some
But I
time,
don't-
but
I
you know how slow things go?
I do.
Right, no, if you take.
And so, you know, when I'm, in 2015, I'll be done, and, you know, I'd like to, you know, it means a lot to me, my position, and I'd like to pass it on, you know, with a smooth
With a little
transition.
faith in what's gonna happen
Well,
next.
in a smooth transition as
right.
possible, so,
So could I suggest that we all look it over again, and, I mean, in a way, is this something we want to tackle in the summer, is it something we want to tackle in the fall? If we're gonna have a meeting about it, it'll be a public meeting, so we have to decide time to begin that discussion.
What is the process for
Would that be
a
with this?
manual?
I don't even think that's a public, I mean, it's really just
Yeah, do we
a,
said, do we do our employee manual? We don't.
Yeah.
No, but it has a
I guess I'm
public
just
meeting,
saying, if we're gonna sit down and discuss it collectively, we.
oh, I thought you were talking about,
Oh, it's
Oh, you
about-
mean a warned meeting?
yeah, oh, yeah, I
What's a
understand.
minute?
Oh, no.
But, you know, I mean, maybe we take, you know, one every other month or something, and just look at it, and I can make recommendations.
How many
and then-
sections are in it?
Well, there's a
You say
fair
one
number.
every-
Well, I don't-
It looked pretty lengthy.
It was, I mean, I think there's, you know, I mean, I think there's a good section on just why you adopt financial policies.
Right.
I mean, that's a good thing for everybody to read. And then there's, I think, the section on accounting and auditing, that's a really good one. Model purchasing policy, I mean, I think there's some, we already do some of those, I mean, you know, with the
Yeah.
bidding and everything, but it just gets it right in, you know, I don't think there's gonna be much work. There's cash receipts, there's credit card, debt management, we don't, I mean, I think, you know, it's important to look at it, but, some of these are just more than we need, I think. But I do think it's a good starting point.
Okay, so as our treasurer, I'm gonna ask that you, prior to the next meeting, take a subset
Yep. I
and
won't be
say.
here next meeting.
Oh, well, okay, then the one after.
Yeah, okay.
And say, I really want to have this discussion.
Okay.
About this section, so that we can talk about it, we've all read it, we understand it, and then we can move, and then just kind of say, all right, that will be in that policy, and we move on to the next.
Right, and all you have to do is, I don't know if you have to do you have to warn an adopted policy? I mean, you can just
I don't
adopt.
believe so.
No, so, yeah, and then we can just tackle it,
Piece by piece.
So is that something we want to do at a regularly scheduled meeting?
Yeah.
Or is this something we want to?
Let's try it. See how long, there are
I
probably
don't-
ones that are harder than
Well,
others.
I
but
think
most-
we try it, and another way to do it may be to have two trustees work, so now we don't have to worry about being a meeting, and then.
Oh, okay.
then we
You mean
present it
maybe
back.
have like
A working session.
a working session
A
with
working
me,
session.
and then we talk about it, and
Right.
I don't,
Comes back and says, we decided that this would be a good recommendation.
Yeah, and then, we can clean it up and.
So I think most of the things are going to, with your help, are going to be fairly obvious.
Yeah.
I don't think we're reinventing anything.
No, and I think these
It's
are
just
really
getting it-
good model,
And
policies.
getting it down in writing is so important, for.
So this is going to be a process of kind of really using this
As
and
a-
just tweaking it a little bit
Yeah,
to fit us.
yeah,
better.
to fit us.
So it shouldn't be.
yeah.
Excising
That daunting.
probably a lot of it.
Yeah,
making it
but,
easy.
making it work for us, so
So,
I don't know who would want to do that with me.
Lori, do you, well, let's start with just a our normal
Okay.
meeting 2 months from now,
Okay,
Yeah.
whenever that is.
Yep.
Put that on that agenda.
okay, and we can tackle the,
That Gail's gonna bring forth the first, whatever section she thinks is most important to begin with.
well, I mean, I think, there's the,
Start at the beginning.
yeah, start at the beginning.
Let me just say, looking ahead to retirement, I'm retiring in another month, and so I'd be interested in, if you want to break it out and do some preparation and bring it back with recommendations, I'd be
Well,
glad to do some of that too.
Great.
The geographic,
Yeah, this is.
That works well.
Yeah, no, and we'd be glad to have someone else join us too.
I didn't realize you were retiring.
I am.
Congratulations. So that's what we'll do to start, and then we'll say, okay, and we'll all read the whole thing, because I got it from you, I glanced at it and thought, okay, this is what we have to do right now.
Well, I know.
But I know,
It's a, and maybe for that meeting, we should, if we could look
Then we
at.
could break it down.
Look at section 1, which is just the first thing that talks about,
Well, section 1, just why to adopt policies?
did you want to read that first?
No, I thought you said section 1 was just.
Oh, no, I think it was it's accounting, auditing, and financial reporting policy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
How's that?
So section
So
1.
we will do that, section 1,
For 2 months
2
now?
months.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
July.
July.
Okay, good. Any other new business? Old business?
Well, I just wondered, before we get to old business, if we're going to talk about this report, or just accept it, or what we need to do with that, the 10 months.
I added the income statement on the last 2 pages of it. And so if you're wondering what goes into, say, depot maintenance, you can kind of, you can see the breakdown there.
Yeah.
Of what actually probably makes up depot maintenance, or, the renovations or whatever. So I thought that would be helpful.
That is
That's very helpful.
percentages.
So, and it also gives you what the revenue, so, in terms of what we've taken in. So. Did you have some questions?
Well, I had needed a refresher in terms of if what we've done about sinking funds, because reserve funds, because when they're paid out, it appears will be
Going the wrong direction.
It goes in the wrong direction, yeah.
So I have not, I have to do the audit reserve fund. Now, the municipal planning grant up under general government, we're going to get that money back. Rachel, that was
Yeah.
what, but I had to show that as money going out. So that will be offset with the grant that
Right.
comes in. So I have not put the truck reserve, the truck purchase sinking fund, that was what we just authorized today for Peoples. That was the payment. I have not done the fire equipment replacement fund yet. So those are the funds that, I typically do towards the end of the season. Hopefully we have enough money to do that. So I'll probably be doing that this month or early next month.
Well, it looks like out of the total, we're gonna be 10% of the budget anyway. Right? 10, 12, but I think we were aware of that in our budgeting of the next budget. Highway's looking pretty good to me. And that's because we've been waiting to do any highway maintenance, the 41,000 is sitting there as,
Right, which we need for,
for this Bank Street project. And of course, what's else gonna have to come out of that, although that will be next year, is the dam. Or it's gotta come out of somewhere.
All right.
I don't find this,
Why are you always
we're gonna
tracking
get
cars?
some of it.
There's nobody in the world that drives a car on that day.
You know what?
No.
It's navigable water, so.
Then take it out of the boat.
Transportation.
Take it from the water.
We'll send them a note.
There's nothing that jumps out at me that's too scary. I mean, it's all scary, but,
Except for the total package, right?
no, I appreciate that, Gail, that's very helpful. And then the last one we'll get would be the end.
Well, I'll put one together through May, and then in July,
Have
maybe,
kind of where we-
hopefully I'll give you a draft anyway.
Where we ended up.
Yeah.
the Bennington County Regional Commission, is that something we're gonna have to count on that?
That high?
Yeah. Is there something,
We need to call.
You mean their last assessment on us?
well, yeah, I mean, it's,
The BCRC is, what they charge each year. Do they have an idea yet of what it's going to be?
They haven't sent it to me, they generally send it.
Yeah.
but this was that's all their charge? There wasn't anything special we did with them or something that,
I don't,
No, that's not true. That is true, David. What you just said is true. Because sometimes we have to pay for their services for the grants before we get reimbursed. So
Yeah, but-
Bill, I can look at that with you.
well, yeah, because.
Okay,
some of it-
yeah.
You know how they, like.
So the grant money
Herman
are
Construction
offset.
yeah, and you get a check and you don't have a clue what it's for.
Right, but
it's big.
like for Herman Construction, I just had to pay for plans that are coming,
Yes,
for Herman from Trudell.
yeah.
And then I had to send one to the regional commission as well. So, I mean, I can.
Well, this check was the very first check.
Is that the only check to the regional commission?
No, but there's some that go through the municipal plant ground and the bank.
Because the whole amount for the planning grant is right there, so that's all accounted for.
That's all accounted for, and that's
That
all.
was all totally
That's all
4,300.
BCRC too, all
Right,
these checks.
right.
Okay, so if it was put into another account, then that's the
Yeah,
allocation.
but it
So
would
I-
have to be on the intersection grant.
Right. And I,
The other
you know,
one
I
is totally
can,
accounted for.
I can ask Colette tomorrow what the appropriation
Please.
is going to be.
I mean, it really is 6 of one, half a dozen another, but I just,
Well, I can
I just
double
don't
check
like
to
the
make
fact
sure
that
that
they're-
that check didn't include
Yeah,
something else with it. So it was back in July, I remember.
but if they're
There's
upping
only
their
one
fees
check,
like
it would
that.
only have been the appropriation.
So maybe we can look at that invoice.
Yeah, I will, and I'll call her to see if she has one for the next fiscal year. Generally, they won't, yeah.
Okay.
Because I just wasn't aware that their fee to us would jump that much. Which
maybe
they could
it
very well, I don't
included
think
some- I
it's
don't know.
something they come and ask you about, they just do it, don't they?
I'll just send her an email, she's really.
Didn't I get that bill in the mail? Don't I
You
get,
did.
don't I get for
You
whatever
did, it was in
reason?
your office.
And I brought it to you, and
And we paid it.
that was what they wanted.
Yep.
And I don't remember if that was 17 or 25.
I have to talk to my son about this, upping these, taking
Yeah.
advantage of it again.
David, I'll just email Colette.
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Other old business is the West Street traffic speed limit
Yes.
stuff. What have you found out?
Well, I made a report.
Very nice.
I'm surprised I wasn't picked up for loitering around the town as I was trying to track down speed limit signs.
East Main Street.
Okay, so, what I did was drive around town and record where the speed limit signs were. This page here marks the signs that I thought were relevant, and also those are the ones that have an X in them, and they're in red. And then also I did indicate on many, maybe not all of the other streets, what the speed limit currently is, because I referenced that in the report too. And basically, the first section here talks about what I found, and what I did find is that there seems to be inconsistency in terms of what the speed limits are around town. To the north side of the village, everything's 25 miles per hour, but on the south side, there are a number of streets that have 30 mile per, or posted at 30 mile per hour. And we were, this was brought to our attention in terms of West Street, which is, but Prospect Street seems to be, Mechanic Street seems to be, and this one, it totally amazed me, the access road to the fishing area, the Lake Perrin Road, is posted at 30 miles an hour, and how anyone could ever lie.
Is it really 30, is that posted?
Yeah. So, and there's signs on both ends, too. I felt I couldn't safely go over 20 down that road. So, I marked the signs. There were some interesting pieces here, too. The one is that going up Prospect Street, going out Prospect Street, I couldn't find a sign until I was way out on College Road. So I may have missed it.
So is this a recommendation then, or?
No, and coming into town,
okay, that's the
there's
first.
one at the top of the hill by the college gate.
Right.
But I couldn't find one
Nothing
going
going up?
out
Right.
until I hit College Road. So I assume it's posted for 30, but one might not know that
Right.
going out of town. And then there's, actually, I'll confess, I didn't drive down School Street, but Church Street is posted at 20 by the school, and I'm assuming School Street is too, but I'm not absolutely certain of that. That's the basic picture of the way things are now. And then I listed some recommendations, and actually, after I wrote this, they might be grouped together in options. I do feel there's a strong argument to be made on reposting or changing West Street from 30 to 25. It's a highly residential street. It has Head Start, the library, it's close to the school.
Right, it's kids,
Right,
school
I guess
kids
that
walking.
kids walk there.
Yep.
And it's bordered by Park Street, which is 25, and by Church Street, which is 20. So that block, anyway, from Park McCullough down to Main Street, seems to make sense to me to be 25.
Okay, now going further west, the 30 is fine, you're saying?
Yes, right. Once you get up to the Park McCullough,
Right.
it becomes rather rural, and it makes
Right.
sense. So there are two signs on West Street in that block, one going
Yep.
each way.
There would be two signs that could be, just looking at it from a financial standpoint and the changing and keeping it to a minimum. And being consistent, you have 225s on West.
Okay, so that's maybe option one, to
Yep.
address that, because that seemed to be the most critical of all. The other one, though, I guess the next one, to my mind, would be Prospect. It too is highly residential, it's very busy at the bottom.
Plus, there's a lot of college kids walking on
And
it.
yes, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic up to the college entrance. There's a Prospect Community Care Home still there, right?
Yep.
Or the nursing home closed, but
Yep.
Right.
the community cares home is up there. So, and there's no sign going up anyway.
Right.
So there should at least be a sign going up, and
And I think
and
at
the
the
next
top of
thing
the
would be
hill,
changed, yes.
Coming down.
On top of the hill, coming down. I think it's
People are more
fine
common-
once you reach the wall of the college.
yeah,
Well, it could be fine there.
30
Or the
there.
other is Frederick Street. I mean, that could be the other change point if you want to change.
'Cause
Because there's still a fair amount of residential on Main.
so perhaps that 30 that's up there around that corner could be moved to Frederick.
Could be, yeah.
To
So
that point.
that would be option two, would be those two. And then for consistency's sake, you might, Mechanic Street is pretty residential as well. And I don't know about doing anything on the lake access, the fishing access. It doesn't make sense what it is to me, but I'm trusting that people aren't actually traveling 30 miles an hour.
Well, according
It
to,
could be, and there's no houses, and,
But they,
you know, I mean,
yeah, but on the risk of doing something in the car.
we had a complaint on that last summer, didn't we?
the dust.
About the
Yeah,
cars
the dust,
driving,
complaints about the dust on it, yeah.
and the cars driving.
Though if we don't grade it, then that probably helps.
Probably a good idea.
Helps it.
Not to grade it.
So one other thing to note is on the back of page, I included the village center map. And because one way to look at it is that the streets that empty into the village center might all be the same, except for the school, which
Goes down.
Goes down, be the same. And so at this point, Main Street is, Bank Street is, Fulton Street is, Sage up there and Nash. Prospect appears not to be, though it's a little ambiguous, and West Street isn't. So those would seem to be the priorities to me, those two streets. And Mechanic is kind of out of that district.
Well, and Prospect is too. It's
Well,
only,
the upper Prospect
Right.
is, but the lower part.
The lower part's in.
it sounds to me like about 5 25-mile-an-hour signs would solve and bring consistency to all of this.
Well, I haven't had a chance to talk to Norm about it, so, your thoughts?
He doesn't like signs, I get that, but,
But we're not really adding.
We're not really
signs.
adding,
We're changing signs that exist, we're not really adding.
well, we're adding one at the bottom of
Well, I think
Prospect and one at the
yeah.
bottom of
Yeah.
Mechanic, but I'm all for this. It isn't gonna make I get it, it's not gonna,
Well, psychologically, it seems to me that there's a difference between looking at a 30 and something that says 20-something.
but when they're coming down my street on Prospect,
Well, you
40,
could be-
45,
could be out there
yeah, well,
enforcing.
I guess not.
No,
I'll let the police sit in my driveway if they want to.
so that's my report.
That's great.
It's excellent.
We now have a picture, and I like that. Norm, what's your highway foreman hat say about this?
I think we can, unless we have an officer at every one of those signs, speed limit's not gonna change. It makes sense, there's a, you can look at it, see the
Consistency.
mathematical equation to it, how it all fits. And that's fine, you know what, we came up with the speeds and the roads that we have, you know, it's beyond me, that was all long before I ever got here.
Right.
We can certainly take that suggestion, I know you have to warn it, and it has to be in the paper so many times. We're just about to do a sign order, so it goes on, we have to update so many signs a year to be in compliance with MUTCD. So
this can be part of that?
now it's the time, yeah, I mean, you know, and we'll certainly recycle those signs that we remove and
That is
move to
still-
other places or save them for when they get stolen and, you know, and then blah, blah, blah.
Why don't you find out what those cost?
They're like $50 a piece, $60
Okay.
a piece.
And we could also take the opportunity, if we're going to the trouble of changing the signs and revamping and
Yeah.
informing
What we do
Bennington
now-
PD and inviting them, say, listen, we're serious about calming some traffic here, we're changing some speed limits. Could this possibly be a time where you might send a few extra
It's
cars?
60 days or so
Yep.
before.
Right, I'm not saying do it today, but I'm saying when it goes into effect would be a good time to invite them into the village and say, you know, we're trying to calm some traffic, and would you mind sending a few extra cars? Because if they see the signs change, even if they don't write a ticket, and they see police presence a little bit, it might, if it calms down some of the traffic, then,
Well, I mean, we've had quite a bit of police presence on Upper Mechanic Street, or Overley Road and everything, and, you know, and it's kind of comical, because they targeted an area for a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And they haven't really wrote a lot of tickets there. Now, we all know, anybody that drives that road like we do, and the person who complained, they run them stop signs constantly. You know, it's actually good in the morning, and I think that once somebody saw the officer there once, now they get a little scared, they stop. So, education's better than, but I mean, you can look at the report, I saw our income from tickets or income from PD is pretty small,
Yeah.
you know? So, and I actually see that as a good thing, you know? But absolutely, if you change speed limits, this is where we did it.
So-
Please ask for a presence, and I'm sure we'll get it.
So how can we boil this down into a warning, you know, that we're going to change from 30 to 25 West Street, east and west?
Yeah,
We're gonna change Prospect,
we can do it all in one, it's gonna
Right.
be, I mean, I'll just do it.
okay.
I
So
mean,
then-
you need to just tell me what they are, and then I'll take it from there.
Well, I'm for the 30 to 25 in both directions on Prospect,
Up to what point?
out to the Frederick. And at Frederick, it would go to 30 as it goes on down around the swamp.
which it
there.
is now.
Yeah, although the signs, you know, if we move the sign to here, then that's the point.
Right there-
Or whatever.
Right there at the end.
Right.
Leave it right there. Mechanic Street, the 30 goes to a 25 as you come in at Frederick, right? Right in front of your shop. And going out, that 30 gets changed to 25. Well, I mean, her recommendation is here, and I'd go with all of it.
Including like Perry Road?
Oh, no, I wouldn't mess with Perrin Road
Right, that we can leave
for
out.
now.
Yeah.
That, we're almost better off, if, what did you say it was on that, 30?
30.
We're almost better off. Is that a public road?
It
You know,
is, yeah.
it's kind of screwy, it's a public road, it's a.
We get paid for it.
Yeah.
We're almost better off, if it's 30 miles per hour, we're almost better off taking the signs out. Because if you put a 30, you're encouraging people to drive faster than they probably would if they didn't see a 30 mile per hour.
That's,
You have to have
Well, we don't-
those speed limit signs on it?
the other streets that
On every
don't,
road should be able to post a speed.
like Sage, I don't think has
Okay.
I'm
it.
just saying, if that says 30 miles per hour, you're almost encouraging people to drive 30 miles per
People
hour.
drive way too fast.
Some are kind of
Oh,
obvious.
So Norm, if it does any service to the, budget-wise, to order, whatever the count is, somewhere between 6 and 8 of those signs, when you're doing this other sign order, do so, we'll warn it. Sorry. And, go from there. What do you think?
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. And then we'll have until, it's a 60-day?
Yeah, and you have to have a public hearing.
After 60 or before?
No, you have to have one before, so probably June.
Let's have our June meeting hearing,
11.
public hearing, and then by, actually by, our July meeting, it would be adoptable.
Right.
No.
No.
Or at 60 after the
Your
hearing.
I believe you have your public meeting and then
Then it's 45 after.
Yeah.
Okay.
45 after the vote.
Okay, so August.
August.
Anyway, it'll be the end of July, 1st of August.
Right.
I know that you will make this work and make it go right. You'll let us know.
Good for the start of school.
Yeah. Janice, thanks so much.
Yeah, it's very
That
good.
was,
So this doesn't really deal with the other concern, which had to do with the visibility and...
Yeah,
Right.
and we've already addressed that, I think, in that we really, our hands are tied there.
Yeah.
The line, and I've been doing that more and more, and I realize when I get there, it's like, hey, you know what, you can nose out. You can nose out quite a ways and still feel safe, and then you see, it's still kind of a gauntlet, but, my recommendation is, and I see a lot of people doing it that way, if you go down School Street, you turn right. You go around that way. It's
I
a
think the
lot.
only way to fix that is you make that a one-way street going up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, you can't change the angles of the roads, you can't change the buildings that are there. I mean, there's really no other way to.
That's worth exploring, but I think you'll get pushback on that too, from the same people who, but whatever. Yeah, but you're right, I mean, going up that is a lot safer than coming down.
Right.
That would be, you get a wicked pushback from me, that'd be horrible to go out if it was one district.
Right.
It's just ridiculous, because it's a street and a half wide now.
Well, it's true, it's, well, we could
You know.
tear it all up and get more lawn and have a one,
Give you another job.
Yes, we did.
yeah. Are we done?
I think so.
We have an executive regarding legal.
We're still gonna talk about the Bank Street sidewalk
Thank you.
and the Old Street sidewalk.
Okay, so this would be old business in the sense that we've got to decide what we're going to do. You've got some numbers.
Well, they haven't changed from last month, I mean, we're
Well,
looking
refresh our
at
memory.
the high end of about $10,000 to finish that sidewalk. And it's-
Which-
It really doesn't matter, we're within $500, $600 to do it in concrete or do it with blacktop.
To do which?
Thank you.
The Bank Street sidewalk.
Out to the-
500 feet, just a little over.
Norma, did you get a number on that tree?
I don't have a number on the tree. I had a conversation with the tree guy, with Mike, and he really doesn't want to cut that tree down. He says this is a healthy tree. Our grandchildren would live long enough to see a tree grow to this size.
All right.
I explained to him about the sidewalk. So, we really need to make a decision on how we want to go about to where we're going to go. Does the board say, you know what, and when our safe routes to school, we
Go
talk
around
about
it.
putting around it, and that will solve a couple other problems.
How close is that to the rail? Because we can only get so close to the rail anyway.
Well, you have to cross the rail.
We'd be able to work that out to knock that tree down, but, our sidewalk.
Right, but how close, what I'm saying is,
Sidewalk wouldn't matter, because it would go in and then skirt around, we're good there.
okay,
Now that the homeowner is motivated to have that broken up sidewalk, maybe it would be easier to get that easement around that tree. Building anything next to a tree, the roots, the growth, the breaks.
Right.
You know what I mean? So either, no matter which side of it, we end up, we're in a bad spot.
And I don't like the looks of the side by the road, because you have that cement road dropping off, you have it getting rutted out. You'd have to have a curb of some sort. I'd like to explore going around the tree, but that involves talking to the homeowner, getting an actual easement.
And
It'd be kind of nice, kind of a meander around and,
Right, I mean, I can't, say that they'll give it to us, but
No.
I would say it's, I think I got a 50/50 shot at getting it,
because their fence ends well before that now too.
so, I guess the question is, are we doing a sidewalk now, anytime, like soon? Or aren't we? And is that one, or or what else? I think it is that one.
I think it's that one only because, like we've talked about before, there's a nice usable sidewalk there that you could choose not to use the poorer sidewalk for. That, there's no other option.
I got an earful the other night from a citizen about both of those sidewalks, and I pointed out to her that that one on Houghton Street shouldn't even be a sidewalk, and that we should tear it out. I said, the days of having sidewalks on both sides of your streets are over.
Right. You're better off to have one good sidewalk on one side and
And that,
get rid of the rest of
if
them.
anything, we tear out, pull that stuff right out of there, grass it off, get the tree committee in there, plant some trees.
Well, I met with the tree committee, this month, and also over in Pembroke, and, after school's out, we're gonna put a couple more trees up on the store. We have some spots that are horribly unsightly. Every time we fill, and the cars just keep coming back. The school buses keep taking off, some other delivery people, and we're gonna put some small pieces of curbing in. You know, David has also tasked me to find some curbing for around the fountain. We're working on that, and we're gonna buy some curbing and put some trees there, so the tree can raise up.
Where is this at?
Granite,
Out by the store.
Granite
Where
curbing?
you have the one, there's gonna be two more.
What's the radius?
Kind of the same kind of tree, they don't really
What's
get
the radius?
monstrous,
He's got to figure out for us.
so.
well, Tim can figure it out.
Yeah.
And the stuff isn't that expensive. The stuff is not that expensive when it gets right down to it. I mean,
Well,
new is like
you
$20
got to
a
do
foot.
something there, and it's got to be granite or it's not going to hold up.
Well, I think we need to do that sidewalk. The question now is the technicalities and whether we use asphalt or concrete. Out that far side of town, I'm an asphalt man, but
What do you prefer, Norm?
You said it's roughly
You
close
know,
in cost?
It's right there, it's the same cost. You know, asphalt was there the first time, it's a little more forgiving, you don't have to have as much of a base. You know, it'll move a little bit, it'll flex a little bit, and that sidewalk was good for 30 years, and then, you know, it was getting deteriorated the last couple of years,
Right.
and it just blew apart. You know, I live on up on Putnam Street, I walk down to the Elks Club, and the sidewalk, you know, it's all concrete. I'm sure it was nice in its day, but now it's panel here, they're all over the place, so. You know, it was asphalt, we're replacing it with what we have, it's gonna be 5 feet wide, it's gonna be 88 sidewalk. You know, that's probably.
is that gonna impinge on their fence?
No, because we're gonna cheat towards the road, but they're gonna.
There's quite a bit of grass between the edge of that and the road.
They're gonna
There's
lose a couple inches and a couple limbs off the trees right between the driveway, and we're already all set, you know, with that. You know, we can't go in and butcher them, but I know that there has to be some, you know, for progress, we get a machine in there.
Would you be willing to talk with them about just the theoretical possibility of going around that tree?
Oh, that'll go there tomorrow morning.
And if they want to talk about it, we can. Obviously, we're going to have a legal document of some sort.
Yeah, hopefully they're watching it right now, so
Yeah.
it won't be a big surprise tomorrow.
The other sidewalk that's of great concern to me, and I really think it probably shouldn't be one either, is the West Street, the steps,
Yeah.
busted up.
Well, again, we had a 3 sidewalk plan, you know, 3-year plan to fix some of our bad ones. The one was on Main Street, which was, last year we fixed just below the store. And the next, we were headed up to Mechanic and Prospect Street. You know, we probably backed off of that one only because it's unsightly, because it goes from concrete, blacktop to concrete, but at least it's passable and it's a good surface.
Right.
Well, let's,
If we can pull it off, I'd like to try to do that one too. But then we have the other one, now, 2 years ago, we closed it for the winter, maybe this winter we should do the same thing on the upper end of West Street by the school. We should just close that section with the staircase. One, it's not ADA compliant, and then it's just a horrible mess.
okay, so we've got, you know, some money in that fund. I would advocate, particularly because we're not doing it any major road stuff. Let's get those 2 sidewalks done. The Prospect, mechanic interface, and that'll be concrete.
Yes, that one would be kind of great.
And the other, if people are amenable, I would at least, until someone tells me.
What's the cost on
otherwise.
that one?
I didn't figure it out.
It's less.
You know, we talked about, well, it's not, it is, you know, we'll have our contractor dig it out, because it's just where it is, it's just that, you know, we can't sit there with a backhoe, we need an excavator to be able to work in the same spot. Keith Report, you know, we'd have him and do a curve, so, you know what, it's maybe 50 feet, and I'll bet you it'll cost half as much. You know, it's just where it is and how it is, you know, that one's kind of got to be done, and we definitely got to match. There's a new staircase.
Yeah.
That I mean, the homeowner did some things for us to make it easier. We promised we would match it, and I'm not going to go back on that promise, you know.
Right.
His bottom step is movable, so we can all make it fit,
Yeah.
you know. And
So would you go all the way down then to that joint that's where the bridge
Yes.
starts?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
could go completely around that corner. You know, there's some talk that we would kind of make that corner a little nicer, but, you know, I'd probably abandon that because, you know, try to cut some corners somewhere to save some money, you know.
You mean in
I guess
terms-
not cut some corners, but, you know, we won't have the Cadillac job. You know, we'll just have a nice concrete sidewalk.
Well, I'd like to know the difference between the Cadillac job and the not Cadillac job. I feel like when we don't do a curb, if we use an old curb,
No, that would be in front of that driveway. It's kind of like a 90-degree turn, actually making it a nice sweep.
Oh.
So we have to jack in with the road out.
Oh, okay.
It's not gonna happen.
all right.
There's already a 6-7 inch curve there. And the only other project that would be like great, if you got like the head in and out of the ballpark, is we talked a long time ago with the college, maybe doing that upper piece on the town
Right.
of Prospect. And boy, if they would like jump in on that one, that would solve a lot of our little problems.
As you cross the road, on the
They
other
cross
side?
the road in that little spot, and it's usually, there's students that are doing it.
No, I know.
Yeah.
You know, we would provide, you know, some of the labor, if they could help fund some of the cost of the materials. You know, that would just clean up that end of town, and
Well, you're working out some good relationships up
I
there.
know, but it's changed, you know, it's,
We know.
they had staffing change, you know, we started it, and then they had staffing change, so for the last year, we haven't been, you know, and the people that write those bills, write those checks, that relationship has been fostered.
Well, let's see what we can do there. I want to get this executive session going, so I would take a motion. To adjourn. Second. All in favor? Good night, thank you.